So there you go. You know, that'll, like I said, I saw Tonya last weekend. I'm Marky Billson, Tri-City Sports Now. Yeah, and that's about par for the course now. Maybe I can get around to watching Gone with the Wind or something like that. You know, about 2 years after it comes out, sure, you know, that's very Tri-Cities, isn't it, in terms of how contemporary we are. So there you go. Maybe I'm not so much of an outsider then. And like I said, I think the movie goes a long way and maybe making Tonya Harding become more acceptable as well and not so much of an outsider, which she no doubt was. And so I would really recommend anyone who hasn't come out and seen that. And yeah, I'm going to be a little bit different on this show because, yeah. And there you go. It's a thing. Blues go to the Stanley Cup Finals. All right. Let's talk about another ice sport. And actually, I've always considered this because the Harding, Kerrigan meet did Botho ratings. I think, double check this, but I think it was the 6th highest watched TV program ever. Ever. I think got the 6th highest rating of all time. Wasn't even in prime time. So that's how big Tonya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan. I had to look it up. It was Axaya Bayul, and I know I'm not pronouncing her name right, who won the gold medal that year. Do you remember that? And all? No, you don't. I know that, but anyhow. I would recommend if you haven't seen that, go watch it on anything but Netflix, because I don't like Netflix, because they will fire you if you look at an employee for 5 seconds, and they're not getting any of my money and any of my support there. So, you know, you've got other streaming services, watch it on that. Are there still any video stores left? Do they still have the Red Box? Anything like that? You can probably watch it on YouTube. That's the thing. So, also, I would highly recommend, if you missed it, just watch on Medium. Go Marky Billson, Tonya Harding, Medium.com, and you'll read my story, my opening monologue on just the whole movie and all that. And you'll see. I'm hoping that can go some places. Let me just put it that way to you. ETSU, you heard about Tennessee, one and done in the SEC tournament. ETSU starts today with their Southern Conference tournament in Greenville, South Carolina. And they'll be taking on UNCG. The Buccaneers are the 6th seed in the tournament. The game begins at 4 p.m. It'll be streamed, but it's one of those ESPN Plus things, which, you know. Anyway, second straight year, ETSU is the number 6 seed, so we can debate how far that they have gone. They do start Micah Kazor, who, despite losing his last couple of starts, has a 1.94 ERA. ETSU is reporting that as the lowest ERA in club history. However, I do think that some of the records of ETSU baseball are dubious. I once saw they said this pitcher struck out the most hitters in a game ever in ETSU history. Well, it was something like 15. And everybody who knows anything about the history of baseball in East Tennessee knows that Jim Mooney once struck out 21 hitters for ETSC. The teachers, yeah, it was 100 years ago or so, but still, in the Mooney family, I mean, you know, Jack Mooney taught me journalism at ETSU, and I still want to get him on the show and all this. Anyway, Micah Kazor, he is going for ETSU. Austin Cohn is 4-2 at the 3.33 ERA, going for the 3rd-seeded Spartans against the 6th-seeded Buccaneers. ETSU has been dropping like a brick, and although I do give credit for single games that ETSU has been playing against the likes of Tennessee, against the likes of Virginia Tech, games like this, I do wonder, and should they be playing as they did initially, games against, say, Tulane to toughen themselves up? Because the early conference season was not real strong. A bunch of, Joe Panucci has New York ties, and he was playing a bunch of small New York schools, Wagner and the like, most of them D1, don't get me wrong, but college baseball in the Northeast, because of the weather and a lot of reasons, oftentimes falters. And so it is sort of like, I don't know, a AAA team taking on a AA team or something like that when you have those sort of games. Now, you could argue, when you play ETSU in Tennessee, what's the level there? Well, ETSU would claim superiority, I would hope, unless they're that subservient to UT, because Buccaneers have taken 3 out of the last 5 from the Vols on the diamond. Baseball diamond. Softball diamond, it's a little different. Yeah, but it's a lot different on a softball diamond. Who am I kidding? Anyway, ETSU has won, and they got a winning season 3rd year in a row. First time that's been done since 81-83 in that era, and it was after Atlee Hammaker had pitched for him, but it was an era in which ETSU was competing for national rankings. That's not the case now, although when ETSU had gotten off to a real good record at the start of the year, then it had appeared that ETSU would, they'd be in contention, especially after they beat Tennessee. Of course, now the question is, will Tennessee get into the NCAA tournament? I think it's 48 teams that make that tournament, and all that. Anyway, there you go. Micah Kazor, then Landon Knack, then Daniel Sweeney, 21-8. That's the big 3 for the Buccaneers. So unlike Spawn and Sane and Pray for Rain, it's actually a 3-man staff. Sort of like the 87 Twins getting by or something like that. Okay, so. But there you go. And that'll begin today. Like I said, if you go by straight stats, ETSU does have the advantage when you look at the pitching matchup of Kazor and Cone. Kazor for ETSU, Austin Cone for the Spartans of UNCG. They're both right-handers. So there you go. Looking forward to the college baseball action of today. Well, let's go and recap tonight. If you missed it, boy, the St. Louis Blues at one time this year had the worst record in hockey. Can you believe that? Can you believe they once had the worst record in hockey? But then, this.
Bozette lays it in. There's 10 seconds to go in the Western Conference Final. 7 remaining. And the St. Louis Blues, for the first time in 49 years, have done it. You can bring out the Zamboni. The Blues will go to the Stanley Cup Final and face off against the Boston Bruins.
So, by the way, a lot of people now wondering if this is the window of opportunity is now over with the Sharks. We'll have to see with that. A lot of people also came out start of the year or start of the playoffs and said, the conference final winner, that's going to come from the East, guaranteed. But the Blues are just so hot. I mean, in some ways, some people think that they didn't win this game, this series 4-2. Many people would say that they beat the Sharks 5-1 when you consider the hand pass that had them lose game 3. So the Blues, and I think we've forgotten just how much they had to overcome this year because the Predators did win the division, but still, all those, guys like Brett Hull and, I've always remembered Wayne Gretzky for a cup of coffee, but, guys like that, for the Blues have always thought that they were, really a nice franchise, but it's one that, and I was kind of surprised by it. Boy, no, they haven't made the Stanley Cup Finals since the flying goal of Bobby Orr. Oh my goodness. My oh my. All right. But the Blues, they are deep, which leads one to believe that maybe, just maybe, if the Bruins, to go to their penalty-filled ways, that the Blues might be able to win this in the power play. The Blues really, what can you say about this? They've gotten a lot of great scoring from Vladimir Tarasenko. He has come on in recent times. But the real guy is Jordan Binnington. And he's 7-2 through the final 3 games of every playoff series now. During that time, he's stopped 235 shots and only allowed 12 to come in. Last 3 games, 75 saves, only 2 goals have come in. Binnington is the hot goalie. He is the Pekka Rinne, what he was 2 years ago for the Predators. That's what he is with the Blues. He is really the guy that has turned things around in this Stanley Cup final. And I say in this, which I said not this Stanley Cup final, but this season. It's been Binnington, stupid. And that's the reason why the St. Louis Blues are in the Stanley Cup finals. And I wouldn't put it past them. Boy, Boston just wins too much. I mean, it's sort of like, would you please? No, we've had the Patriots, the Red Sox. Who thought the Red Sox would ever be big winners, Hey, I remember when the Bruins were, boy, it's been 1972 since they won the Stanley Cup. It's been almost 40 years and all that. And before that, it was 29 years since they won the Stanley Cup. So, my goodness, I mean, how did this get to be a glamour franchise now that Bobby Orr isn't around in his prime? My good, then again, Blues are the Predators' rival. I guess we can't root for them. Tri-City Sports Now.
Martyr Theater is a world